touch on a few other techniques and applications. We're going to actually combine a number of them as we move along. We're going to start out using the Apparel logo in a two-color form. We've got several screens we're going to use. We're going to show an opaque version of the blue on the black. We're also going to show some dimensional printing, and we'll get specifics on the screens and the inks as we move along. But we'll start out using this blue color, which is an Evolution series from Lancer that's actually the PVC and phthalate-free product, and we'll get a nice opaque look on this black shirt. Now, rather than using a traditional white printer under the blue, we're just going to flash print this because we don't really have any other colors that we need opaque. So we'll begin using our mixed blue in our Evolution series here. We're just going to print that using our 156 mesh with a 12% EOM and a standard, we're using a 60 durometer squeegee here, and we're just going to flood that. Fill the stencil and then slice that off on the surface. If you notice, it's not real opaque. It's not a terrible version, but I kind of like to see that smoother. I'd like to see that a little bit more opaque and a little bit closer to the original color that we're trying to match. So we're going to flash that. Should flash real quickly. Bring it back here. We're just going to throw that screen right on top. Now the advantage to running a manual press here over an auto is we can use the same screen. An auto application, we'd have to have two screens that actually match each other. But this just kind of makes things a little bit easier. So we've got a nice dialed, bright colored blue. It's taking us to print, flash, print. No real difficulties there, but we get a nice bright, opaque blue. We're going to flash that and move to our next step. For the type, we're going to use a dimensional screen, we call it. That's over there. This is where we get into the specialty applications. You'll notice the stencil itself is extremely thick. This is actually a 400 micron stencil. We've got a couple of specialty applications here. We've got a mesh that's an 83 thread per inch with a 70 micron thread. We're going to talk about some of those things in the classroom section that we'll talk about in a little bit. But ultimately, we've opened up our mesh and our open area and added a major stencil thickness so we can really get some dimension out of our ink. We're going to start with the super high density clear, also from Excalibur and Lancer, and we're going to lay this on right next to everything and actually right over the top to get a domed appearance as it heats up. So let's take a look at that. So the trick to this is to get that stencil filled up. So you'll notice he's flooding a little bit more aggressively than we do our normal flood application. Now the reason we go with that real wide open mesh is so that that thicker ink is going to fall through. And when we look at this, you can see that we're over the top of our blue here, and you can kind of see how we've got some dimension to it. It's real shiny. It's a little cloudy here, and as we heat it up, it's going to completely clear out and give us a domed effect. We heat that up. Now you can see that it's nearly completely clear. But you can also see that these are standing up a little bit further than this. Now there's a couple things we can do. We're going to go ahead and hit this again, print, flash, print, and that'll help fill in some of the pits. But then we're going to show you a little bit of a trick that'll actually smooth the whole thing out. Now it starts to smooth out even in the milky stage. So we'll go ahead and flash this again. We're kind of swinging it back and forth just a little bit to kind of keep it from getting real hot. Because by the time our ink gets hot enough to clear out, we don't want to risk burning our shirt. So we just kind of keep it moving a little bit here. Now you can see how it really smoothed out and cleaned up in those areas. When we run it down the dryer, it'll really dome up and really be nice and clean. It really gives you a kind of a wet appearance. Now, you can't see it that well on the black, but we're going to show it to you on another couple of colors, and you'll start to see that really look sharp. Let's set this aside. Let's go ahead and set that. Let's put it on a brown. Okay. So we'll do the same thing here. With our blue, we're going to flash print that. We get a nice bright blue on our brown. Now we'll take our clear, and you'll notice it'll, as we print it, it'll darken the brown underneath. Okay, the reason he's raising that up is to check to see if his ink has completely filled that stencil. You'll also notice, let me bring that back down, he's being real careful not to drag that ink across the image area, because with those ridges that are dragging across there, you'll see those in the gel. When we're running flat inks, we don't care about that because we're shearing them off at the surface level. But since we're leaving that dome in here, we can't have any real imperfections in there. So we'll go ahead and flash that. Now you can see how it's taken on a darker. Now we always just, again, this is probably acceptable at this level, but you can really see some pits in it. So we like to fill in the pits with that second layer. Now you can really even see the mesh tracks in here before we flash it. Now we'd be ready to go down the dryer here, but we're going to flash it just so we can see what it's going to look like. This takes on a little different feel. Obviously the tone-on-tone thing that we did before with our faux water base has a nice, oops, I've got to get it just a little bit, has a real nice hand and has kind of an anti-texture or a soft hand that doesn't really even exist. Here we've added actual texture and dimension to it, and now it looks almost wet on the shirt. We can kind of do the same thing on the merchandising side because it looks like a darker version with some real texture here. Now if we put that on green, we'd have a darker version of green. If we put that on red, we'd have a darker version of red.